Hi, everybody. Welcome to Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. I'm Gabby Loren.
And I'm Alie Valerio.
Today, we have the Success Series, and a part of that series is none other than the Tony Robbins of Judaism, as Alie likes to say. We have Gedale Fenster joining us to talk about his journey to Judaism and how that's inspired him and encouraged his path to success today.
Yes, today we have Gedale Fenster, you guys. He is a Miami-based entrepreneur, also a motivational speaker. He's the founder and CEO of People's Insurance Claim Center and Evolutions Treatment Center. He's had established also the Breslov Center, where he teaches and he hosts daily classes and weekly lectures. And you have thousands of people in your WhatsApp group. I think you've vastly have inspired us to start our podcast. So we're super excited to have you today. Baruch Hashem. And I think I met you like 2 years ago. So welcome.
Yes.
Can you also explain to us, Gedale, what is Breslov? And then also your journey from growing up and how you got into what you do.
Sure. What referred to Breslov is referred to where Rebbe Nachman basically lived. Rebbe Nachman was a sage around 250 years ago that today we're able to use his old wisdom and basically make it into very practical psychology today. That's what I practically do. I take his old wisdom and I basically show how all these new age, psychology modules or all this new thinking, it's really something that's really in our it came out 250 years ago. And this is something that we could tap into, and it's something that it works 100%. And Rebbe Nachman basically grew up in the 1800s, and he lived a very, very resilient lifestyle. And he spoke a lot about the struggle of life. He spoke about, gave us a great performance on how to run, and he also gave us a performance on how to return. Like you see today, you see a lot of performers, they're only telling you how to run. They only tell you, go, hit goals. But they don't really speak about the return. They don't speak about when you're getting crashed, when you're getting knocked out, when you feel like doing nothing. So that's the one thing about Rebbe Nachman that really spoke to me is he really showed us how to return. He showed us not to fall into despair. He showed us not to, I myself went through a divorce. We've gone through many, many setbacks, and I'm sure everybody has in this world. But Rebbe Nachman, I think, would be the expert at how to handle a setback. And that's something that I think the key to my classes is really how to handle those setbacks, what kind of mindset you should have in those setbacks, how you should reframe the setback. And this is what Rebbe Nachman teaches us. So that's how I really got into the teachings. I got into the teachings around 20-something years ago. Back then, I was throwing parties in South Beach. I was, the typical Miami lifestyle is get rich or die trying. Going out with the wrong girls, and a lifestyle of a lot of emptiness. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that in LA.
Oh, yeah. I mean, LA, Miami, New York, it's all kind of interchangeable.
Yeah. Like the fact, like you see such a big singles issues, like nobody's content. There's always a missing out. Even when people start going on dates, they're like, maybe there's better, and there's better, and there's better. And it's almost like, you go to dinner and you watch somebody eat food, and you're content. Maybe I can get more food. It's never enough. And that's one thing about spirituality. Is spirituality makes you happy with what you have. Otherwise, if you're not spiritual, there's never enough. You won't be happy with your wife. You won't be happy with the money you're making. It's just a constant dissatisfaction. So that's one of the reasons why I got into spirituality, because I was content with what I had. I'm not running to the next moment. I'm not running. And when you live like that, you really live content. And then when you live content, then everything comes to you. But the more you run after it, the more it runs after you. The more you run, it runs away from you. Because you're doing it for the ego. You're doing it to look good. You're not really doing it is this what God wants me to be in this situation? So I got into Rebbe Nachman's teachings 20-something years ago, specifically in matters of what I think guys have a big issue with is temptation. And he basically gave me a letter in his book, it said, sexual impurity leads to poverty. And back then, I lost everything I had, when I was 21, gambling it away in the wrong lifestyle. And I was literally down to nothing. And I was like, what's wrong with my mazal? What's wrong? And nothing that I'm touching is working. Everything that I touch is going south. And then after reading that book, he told me a specific tikkun that I could say, and things that I should avoid. And after that, my mazal completely changed. And that's how I got into Rebbe Nachman's teaching. So I would say that originally, I wanted to make more money. I wanted to know why I was going through such a hard time. So originally it was not for the best reasons, but obviously after everything changed, my perspective woke up, and that's when I started teaching these classes.
So before 21, how were you raised? Were you raised religious? I know that you obviously connected to Rebbe Nachman, who is Hasidim. Do you identify as that? Are you Orthodox?
Now I am. I am Orthodox, yeah. I'm modern Orthodox. I was raised pretty much, I would say a little bit of Orthodox, but I was not really into it. I mean, I was just not into it. It was nothing that really, you went to synagogue, nothing inspired me. It was like something that was missing. So only until Rebbe Nachman, and remember, the reason why we're not connected spiritually is because we have klipot. Klipot are these exterior things that affect us. It could be, a guy smoking weed can affect him from getting spiritually. It could be a guy, God forbid, watching porn. These things cool you off spiritually. So they take you away from your essence. And that's the problem. So once you have these klipot and you have these exterior things, which is these negative energies, then you can't see spirituality and it won't come into your heart. So only when I started repairing myself, then a whole new view of Judaism opened up for me.
So was it really that rock bottom moment where you were just like, what am I doing with my life? I need to find my way. How did you went to a specific rabbi or you?
No, I found the book. I found the book in somebody's house. The book said it was called Advice. And I opened up a page, literally opened up a page and that line, sexual impurity leads to poverty. And whoa, what do you mean? What does one have to do with the other? And it's explained to me how my financial condition is very connected to, sexual immorality and being with the wrong girls. And, that's why I coach many guys on that, parnasa comes from your wife, not your girlfriend. So, I'm working a lot with guys to try to commit to marry Jewish girls and to be serious, because you can see these guys they think, when you see a fish, you see him, the fish is flapping when the fish is about to die. You see the fish is going crazy, he's having fun, but at the end of the day, the fish dies. You have to be in the water. The water is spirituality. So, that's one of the things that line really hit me hard. And then when he gave me specific things to read. And from there is when I started completely changing.
So when you saw that book that was called Advice and you read the first few lines that you felt like connected to you.
I didn't know how financial prosperity and having a problem in that department had one to do with the other.
Do you feel like that moment was divine providence for you?
No question. Because at that time, I lost everything again. It was like the perfect time, because maybe if I was successful, and I would have probably said, what do they know? It's old to know book. I would have been completely arrogant. I would have been like many people today. I would have been completely arrogant. I wouldn't be open to it. And I would say, it's nice. What do I need God? I'm successful. Which makes no sense, by the way. The more you figure, the more blessed you are, the more spiritual you should be. But today, the more you should see, the more people have money, the more arrogant they become.
Why is that?
It makes absolutely, Gemara tells us, the Torah tells us last week that be careful that you're going to come to a place where you're going to be successful and you're going to be arrogant. And you're going to think it's your hands that make it. And this is the problem also we see today. That people really, they get money and they start becoming arrogant. They say, what do I need spirituality? I'm making it my own. And that's ultimately the ultimate curse in life.
So once you started to become more religious and connected to Hashem, and then all of a sudden, what happened? You became
right away, once I repaired the sexual blemishes that I did, I completely had a huge awakening. When you hear the 40-day challenge in my classes a lot, this is what I'm telling people to do. It's the biggest game changer you could do. Then all of a sudden, I found the right business. My business took off like crazy. Everything just started connecting spiritually. I no longer was depressed. I had no ADD. I didn't have anxiety anymore. It was like a spiritual awakening from repairing that issue, because it's the hardest thing for a guy to fix. It's ultimately the guy's hardest test.
And why do you think 40 days is so important, specifically 40?
Because 40 days is in Judaism, it's like a birth. The first 40 days, a child, it can become a boy or a girl. So 40 days in Torah, it resembles a new birth. So 40 days is a great day to take a habit. For example, today is 40 days we're 40 days to Rosh Hashanah. So 40 days is a day. In Judaism, many sages say 40 days you can break a habit.
Amazing.
Like a new habit that gets born.
So you broke this habit. You saw amazing things come into your life.
Correct.
What was the first, you said your business was the first thing that kind of took off for you. What was that business?
At that time, I had which I still have, it's 20 years, we still have it over 22 years. It was a public insurance industry, like public adjusters, like insurance attorneys. That was the industry that I think I was one of the biggest in Florida. We still have that business today.
Wow. And what made you want to get into that?
By mistake. I met somebody and somehow I got into it. You have to understand something. That, when the word in Hebrew, mazal, what is the purpose of your mazal? Your mazal is it's not so much good luck. It's more to get you to what you're supposed to do in life. Because ultimately, happiness is fulfillment. You can have a lot of money and not be fulfilled, and you completely look at Hollywood, obviously. You can have a lot of money but not be fulfilled. So ultimately, what your mazal does is it gets you to the right place where you're happy, you're fulfilled. That's the purpose of your mazal. And fixing for guys sexually, that is one of the areas that completely changes your mazal. So that's why, a person that you see a lot of guys today, they're lost. They don't know what to do. They're just confused. They don't know what girl to pick. They have their wife sitting in front of them. They don't want to get married. They're scared because their mazal is not being activated. You understand? The purpose of a mazal, again, is to activate your ultimate mission in life, to be happy, to get you where you're supposed to be. That's what your mazal does for you. It's like your GPS.
I think you've said this before too, and I don't know if it's quoting Tony Robbins, but he says you change based on inspiration or desperation,
Exactly.
right? So you had gotten to a point
Robbins.
where you were like desperate, and then you had to make a change. And then what inspired you to start your treatment center? Because I know that you had issues with gambling prior.
Correct. So the treatment center was started 7 years ago. And basically 7 years ago, I started my treatment center. Somehow I was in the insurance industry. Somebody offered to go into it with me. And then at that time, the guy who was doing it with, he actually OD'd, he passed away. And it was just like trauma from the beginning. And then somehow God put me in there. I had no idea how he put me in this business. I had no idea. Now I know why, obviously. But he just stuck me in there. Like again, when you have emunah and you're strong and you have resilience, God will put you where you need to be. That's why it's so important. I tell people, stop escaping, stop using drugs, stop becoming a victim, because God's going to take you where you're going to go. You just have to be patient, and He'll get you there. And somehow, 7 years ago, I opened up this business, and now thank God today we're one of the biggest in Florida in the rehab business. Well,
Wow.
we just acquired another hotel because of COVID. We're making it until we have over 200 beds, detox, everything. Yeah, it's amazing, very fulfilling business. Very stressful, but there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing a person on heroin coming in and seeing them 3-4 months later with like a whole new experience in life.
You were inspired to do this because your partner had passed away from an overdose.
Originally, he knew that I was in the insurance industry. So he says, oh, let me see, it's an insurance. Maybe I can do insurance stuff. And somehow I bought it originally as an investment. And next thing you know, I get into it a little bit, and then then I started teaching my classes, and it just all clicked. Literally, it just all clicked. It was like an attraction that I had to do. It was like a pulling that I had to do.
So you recently did a class on the law of attraction, and you talked about how it differentiates from the regular, Western society law of attraction and then the Jewish version. So how did you recognize the Jewish version of the law of attraction in your own life? And did it feel natural to you, or did you have to overcome? I know you obviously overcome the dark moments in the very beginning, but do you feel like you still had these like little tests here and there throughout your process?
Oh, I still have tests daily in my life. But in Kabbalah, the difference between Kabbalah and Hasidut teaches is that when you go down, it's for a preparation to go up. Understand? Every fall is for the sake of an aliyah. You're down for the sake of an aliyah. So it's a very different approach where people think, oh, something's wrong with me. I'm not feeling good. I'm not doing good. Something must be wrong with me. No, you can't go up all the time. Nothing goes up all the time. You have to go down to go up. And the reason why we have to go down to go up, first of all, to recognize it's not you having your success, it's up to your creator. And second, it humbles you. It humbles you and it makes you have a relationship with your creator, which is the ultimate goal, is to be able to have a relationship with your creator, that anything that happens, you know where to run to. You're not stuck on anxiety, you're not stuck worrying about doctors, you're not stuck worrying about this today. Imagine a person has no spirituality in 2020, he's finished. How many people I hear all the time, if I didn't have spirituality, I would jump. This is the mindset you have today.
You talked about also the Jewish principle of law of attraction and how it's just an unveiling of the curtain. It's always been there. So did you always feel like this stuff had been there in your life and present, and it just took an unveiling of your curtain to find everything?
Once I fixed my problems sexually and I stopped with those girls and I stopped with doing what I was doing, my mazal opened up. So I started attracting things. Does that make sense? So today, if I would be depressed, sitting in the ground, and all of a sudden I'm visioning money, it's not necessarily going to come to me. You understand? It's why it's very important to understand it. That's why I did that class, to show people you really when we talk about teshuvah, when we talk about getting better, working on our habits, what you're doing is, it doesn't sound so fun. It's not a fun thing. It's opposite. But at the end of the day, when you work out and you're putting that time in, nothing's fun about it. But what you're getting is you're actually getting progress. So, for example, a person all of a sudden, he can start keeping Shabbat. He can start attracting more money because his mazal changes. All of a sudden, he gets married. His mazal changes because his mazal comes from his wife. He could be more successful financially. So there's a lot of things that you can give charity. You can change your luck. And but it always forces us that we have to do something. It's the person has to make the lower arousal. It's not just visioning something and doing nothing that I expect to attract money or something to come to me. Singles also, it's hard to, if you just, if, for example, if we're having a hard time dating, then it's time we have to pick our game up. We have to, okay, why am I attracting these kind of people? Take that lack and get closer to God through that lack and say, you know what, there's a reason why I'm attracting these people. I have to pray, I have to do better, I have to pick up some through my life, and I'll attract better people. It always forces us to change. God never changes, but we can change. We change the type of blessing that we get on high.
Let's talk about success habits for a second. So what are some daily habits that you do every single day? I know you pump out your classes every day. What are other things that people should be doing in order to become more successful?
Right. My daily day starts like at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when I'll do my tikkun hatzot. I'll do my an hour of hisbodedut. I'll learn a little bit in the morning, and I'll go pray in the synagogue like around 6. Then I'll do the class, like the class that I do every single day. So already by 8:30, everything spiritually is already checked. Then from 8:30 to 9:30, I'll go work out. And then 10 o'clock, I show up to the office. But everything's already done. By 10 o'clock, half the day is already gone. I would say you have to start early. You have to start very early. And you have to understand something. The reason why most people are exhausted and most people are tired is because they're accumulating a lot of stress. They're holding in a lot of things. And I'm a Scorpio, obviously. And, there's a lot of things that go on in life. And all of us, we all have a tremendous amount of stress. And what happens is if we take things personal or we deal with stress, instead of giving it and releasing it to God, or surrendering to that situation and finding the silver lining in the cloud, we hold things in. We hold stress in. We start saying this person victimized me. Or we start saying that I'm verbally getting abused, and we start becoming victims in life. And we start accumulating a lot of stress, internal stress. So what happens is you wake up in the day, you wake up exhausted because you're holding a lot of things in. And then people say something to you, you're just snapping at them, you're a whistleblower all day. So the only way to really, really get rid of all the stress is really when you wake up in the morning, review what happened, with your day, and then start releasing that negative energy. It could be by situation. Okay, you know what? I got anxious because, I thought I looked at something as a threat. Maybe it's a challenge. So all of a sudden, when I change the meaning, I change the feeling. Or, that person wronged me. But at the end of the day, it's nothing to do with me. The way they feel about themselves has nothing to do with me. Why did I take it personal? Why am I holding a grudge? So I have a daily ritual where basically I have tons of energy in the morning because there's nothing being accumulated. Everything is light. So when you're light, your brain works. You can do classes every day. You have tons of energy. But when you're holding in so much stress, you have absolutely no energy. And you get stuck all day, blaming people and stuff like that.
What do you do if you're in a situation during the day where I know you mentioned it's not about me, it's what they're going through, but what if it is triggering for you? How do you stop yourself in that moment and respond differently?
Yeah, you ever found when you're in a good mood, that person could say something to you and it doesn't really bother you?
Yeah.
Let's say you won $1 million and all of a sudden that person says something to you and it doesn't bother you at all, right? But let's say that day you're having a terrible day and that person all of a sudden says something to you, it's going to trigger you 10 times. The same comment that somebody said something to you, but the difference is the way you felt about yourself at that moment. So it really has nothing to do with the person. It has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with really how you feel about yourself at that moment.
That's basically a very good point.
Yeah, your mood is a shadow of your self-esteem. How you feel about yourself is determining what things mean to you. And if you hear my classes, boy, do I talk about that over and over. Because if you can get that, remember, I have 15 psychiatrists that work for me. I see thousands of clients. It's not that I go to them, they work for me. And it's the same patterns all the time. It's the same patterns. Somebody says something to us, we take it personal, and we get angry. You want to save 25 years of therapy? Don't take it personal. But how do you do that? You got to recognize that whatever happens to you is not always about you. So you start recognizing that the way somebody feels about themselves has really nothing to do with me. It's the way they feel about themselves. And then you take your power back.
The idea of working on yourself, I think, in the morning, I think is such an amazing tool to success. What time do you go to sleep at night in order to get up at 4 a.m.?
10:30. 10:30.
That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and I don't stay up too late. I've had to make a lot of sacrifice. Obviously there's no heat games now, there's no basketball really. Bubble doesn't do much for me, the bubble. But I watch my time wisely.
I know you said in the morning.
Prayer gives me energy, and saying prayer doesn't drain my energy. I have no energy because I'm drained out by my trying to control things. I'm drained out by blaming people. I'm drained out by obsessing about the future, or I'm drained out by thinking about something that happened 5 years ago that can absolutely change. That's what drains my energy. What drains me, it does not drain me in the moment. And if you don't have a mechanism today to release this energy, then you're going to be a walking time bomb, and people are going to set you off all day long. But it really has nothing to do with that. Once you take your power back, then sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
I think you've talked about this in your classes before. It's like there's a difference between his bodhidut and bodhidut, right?
Bodhidut and meditation, you mean?
Well, there's like two different ways to pray to God. Like one is like, I know you talk about Emunah and you talk about just like different levels of faith, but when you're praying to God, are you asking God for the strength to get through your day? Are you trusting in God that everything's going to work out for the best? Like, what do you...
Right. The purpose of prayer is to come to expanded consciousness. A bad mood is constricted consciousness. You understand? The whole point in Kabbalah, in a very easy example, is to go from a bad mood to a good mood. And the way I get from a bad mood to a good mood is I have to change the way I look at something. So through prayer, I'm able to take that same situation and see it completely different. At the moment that I'm going through that situation, my emotions are dictating, my emotions are running the show. But in prayer, I can step back, I could review the situation, and I could see maybe I didn't see it in the right angle. So what I'm really doing is I'm taking inventory. I'm looking at the angle completely different. I'm releasing the negativity towards that person, or if it's something that I had anxiety about, I recognize that I was fearing something instead of fearing God. So what you do in prayer is you're really just going back to your soul state, where you would do the right thing. For example, if you're in your ego state, you would never forgive somebody because you're saying, if I forgive somebody, I'm giving away power. Maybe I'm going to look weak. Maybe you're going to think I did. But at the end of the day, the soul always wants to forgive because you always feel better when you forgive. But the ego likes to hold a grudge. So, but you can't do that in the heat of the moment. You really need some time where you're completely focused and you can really replay all those things that happen. And when you do that, then what happens is there's concept in Kabbalah called, when there's judgment above, below, there's no judgment above. If I say, listen, you're right, I have a mistake. I'm not perfect. I did insult her. I made a mistake. Please help me not become more patient. Then there's no reason to give me an example to wake me up and say you're arrogant. So the whole purpose of feeling is supposed to do is to not only ask gratitude, but to check yourself. Because when you check yourself, you cancel the judgment above. Because they know you're already working on yourself. What do they need to remind you that you're being arrogant?
How often do you need to be in this like meditative state to be able to actually eventually change these habits? Is it 40 days or does it take longer than that?
Right. It's basically, part of the 12 steps in AA is doing an inventory. One of the 12 steps is inventory. So basically it doesn't take, you just have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. You could start it, day by day. It doesn't take far. I've been doing it for 7 years, 8 years. But if you want to really remember, you have to say something. If you want to really get to, and I know both of you are into peak performance, right? I can see it in you. I can see it in your drive. But you have to say something. You need a lot of energy to do what you do. There's no question. You need a tremendous amount of energy in life. And if you're giving away energy for stupidity, you're not going to be where you want to be. So successful people are very careful, not with time management, with energy management. So when you have a podcast, and I have more businesses also. I have 5 businesses. I have a lot of things on my plate. And I do the podcast, and I do this book, and I work out. There's no excuse. As long as you have energy, you can do it. But if you're giving away energy by focusing on something you can't control, by being depressed about the past, or blaming people for your lack of success, you're not going to be able to have 10 minutes of fun. You understand?
That's a very important point I think you're making here, because obviously there's a very thin line here between overexerting yourself and coming back to your center.
No question.
So
it's not it's energy management. It's energy management. And you know who has a great example of this? Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey had 7 habits of highly successful people. And I love this analogy, sharpen the saw. And he goes up to a guy that he's cutting the saw. It's taking him 30 minutes, an hour to cut a saw. And he's exhausted. And he tells him, listen, take 5 minutes away and just sharpen it. And it'll be cut in 3 minutes. What does he tell you? I don't have time. So, what do you want me to tell you? You don't have time to sharpen the saw that can cut it for 30 minutes? Then obviously, you're not using your time.
It also kills me when people say that in dating, like, I don't have time, and they're making excuses for themselves, but they do want a significant other, but they're not taking the appropriate action or have the right mindset in order to bring that person in. So it's like the same thing, whether it's in work and professional or it's in your personal life.
I want to cry for the dating. I literally want to cry. I want to cry because I got
Me
married
too.
Today. I want to cry for you guys because the whole system, the guys are supposed to be the ones really, the problem is most of the guys are fooling around with the wrong girls. And then when they want to meet the right girl, all of a sudden that girl has tons of blemishes. But it's only happening because they're getting too involved with other girls. They don't have clarity. And how many times the guy says, listen, I'm going to go out with this girl. She's not Jewish, but once you find me a Jewish girl, I'll be right there for you. But you idiot. You're not going to be able to have clarity because you're doing what you're doing. It's like somebody telling you, I'll go on a diet, but he's got cheese doodle stains on his finger. You're not serious. So it really hurts me to see the dating today. It hurt, I never forget 2 years ago, I went to Beverly Hills, the synagogue in Beverly Hills. I did a Shabbat event at what's that big Persian synagogue?
Oh,
Ness, yes.
Is it Nessa?
Nessa.
Nessa. So I spoke for 10, 15 minutes, and everybody was like, because they're expecting me to talk about, I said, you're too much into perfection. I said, you're never going to get a rose in life without a thorn. Stop looking for perfection. It doesn't exist. It'll never exist in your life because you come to a relationship to give, not to take. So they're like, what? Because they're so brainwashed because the parents tell them you have to marry this guy in this block. And it's and it's not working, the system. It's almost working as much as Joe Biden's speeches are working. It's not working. It's not working. And people don't see, oh my God, it's not working. Why don't I try something new? But they're so stuck on the ways, you know?
Going back to business too, like what drives you every single day? Because I listened to a recent podcast you were doing, which was about the giving and how you got this because you prayed to receive in order to give. So
Right.
that what drives you every single day to be successful?
Yeah, I have today, I would say, like maybe 20 organizations that are dependent upon that I support. So there's a lot of people depending, especially in Israel right now. I mean, people are really, really struggling. So I thank God I give tons of charity. So when you give charity, it takes away, you can still have the drive for business because you want to give charity, but it cools you off so you're not coming home and being depressed because you didn't make money. But there's nothing more like charity. Charity really gives me, it's a holy drive that can make you successful. And it's going into the right places.
Where
So I would say charity drives me.
Where do you want to go from here, Gedale? So you've achieved all of these things. You have all of these businesses. You're able to give charity back to these organizations. What's next?
I don't know, maybe writing a book, but I have 200 beds in Miami. We just acquired a hotel. We're acquiring it Monday. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm not really into, people tell me open up rehab centers. Well, I'm really not into that world. I'm happy. I'm content. I have 5 kids. I'm not really running to go and do 1,000 things. I'm pretty in a good spot, I think.
I was going to ask you.
I have a settled mind. I don't want to be running after money and going to kill. Maybe writing a book, if anything else.
But so with all of this going on, and you're saying, you're happy and content. I mean, is it ever too much? Do you feel like you have too much on your plate? I know you spoke of energy management, but you have a lot going on.
No, I don't think I have too much. Again, discipline. The key is discipline. I don't think I have too much. And I have 5 kids and I'm married. On top of everything else. No, I don't think I have too much. It's something. Remember, when you enjoy what you do, it's an opportunity. Anytime you have a low effort in something, it's because you're looking at it as an obligation and as an opportunity. You understand? So for me, it's an opportunity to go to class. I enjoy it. It's an opportunity to work out. Working out to me is an opportunity. It's not an obligation. But somebody, you tell them, go work out. It's like, no, I'm tired. For me, it's an opportunity.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. But other people will tell you, oh, working out is hard. Exactly. Go work out. They'll look at you like you're crazy.
And you use the metaphors a lot when you talk. You're like, when you're lifting a weight, you just have to like push through it, even though it's hard. You tear the muscle so that it grows back. Like when I look at you, I see so much resilience. Like you just continue to keep moving, but with so much poise as well. So it must be, I don't know, is it because you're just so connected to Hashem that you feel like you're driven and you're moving forward?
Well, I mean, listen, when I get stuck on something, usually it's a meaning that we're giving something. So when I see something that I can't understand, the essence of knowledge in life is to recognize you don't know anything. And the more you know, the more you recognize you don't know anything. So when you come to a state and something happens in your life, all of a sudden people just give it a certain meaning and they get upset. And at the end of the day, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. You understand? Don't be so quick to give something a negative meaning. People just get frustrated very easily. Look what happened to me. Maybe it's a blessing that happened to you. Don't always look at it as bad. People always looking at it as negative. It's always bad, bad, bad. I look at it as there's times that I don't understand. What am I going to do? I don't know anything. And there's a time to be quiet. You don't always have to do everything. There's a time to be quiet in life and just let it pass. Not every time you have to be on. There's a time also to retreat. Like I said, running and returning. There's a time you have to return and be patient, and then you'll run again. It's not always running like with your head off.
Some entrepreneurs would say that a way to not be running all the time would be to delegate tasks and things to get done to other people. Would you say that's a key to success in business, is to have a good team?
I have to thank God we have amazing teams across the board. Absolutely, you need a good team. But you need a good team through prayer. I've had many times, 2.5 years ago in our rehab, we literally got rid of 90% of the company. It was a complete refresh, breaking of the vessel. We had to build a new vessel. So there's a lot of stuff that I've gone through, very, very tough times. But again, I instead of saying why me, I say what's next. If you want to tell me how today I am standing here, it's because I say what's next, not why me. I don't dwell in self-pity. What's next? The thing broke, what's next? And there's a great book that I really liked. It's called Fail Fast, Fail Often. And it teaches you that you have to go through a process. Like when I tell people to get married, how do you know I'm married? You're never going to know if you're married. You're going to learn on the way. You understand? People are waiting for perfection, or they're waiting for the perfect moment. You're going to learn on the way. There's never going to be, I don't know if I'm, don't worry, God will teach you a lesson. God will show you what you need to do. People say if I marry box A, if I marry box B, I'll be happy. C, it's not a game show. It's when you work on yourself, it blossoms. Marriage is not an easy. It's a lot of work, a lot of self-sacrifice.
You have your podcast. You seem to be recording every single day to be able to provide content for your Breslov groups on WhatsApp and on SoundCloud and YouTube. What inspired you to do these motivational speaking and the videos and all that?
I went through something 7-8 years ago that I recognized that I was in a very, very tough situation, and I wasn't getting the right advice. I was getting too of a passive approach, like not into details, like, okay, I didn't even think about say to Helen 42, say this, say that. It was just a very flaky response. So once I started, speaking here, very small, and it started growing. How it grew, I have no idea how it grew. But I recognize people are lacking the right advice. They don't have the right advice. So, they're lost in the forest, but they don't have the right advice. So I said, we need to talk more direct. People, if they knew better, they would do better. The one thing about Tony Robbins, he's very good on strategy. Tony's amazing on strategy. He's always very strategic. And I said, there's got to be a Jewish version of that. Why are we always running to let's do something on Rebbe Nachman's teachings, and that's how I started.
Did you ever do Tony Robbins' workshops, or did you have a mentor before, other than Rebbe Nachman, of course?
My rabbis really is the teachings. I really went all in on the teachings. But mentors, David Lieberman is one of my mentors. He's written over 30 books. My rabbi has written over 70 books. I just needed a lot of time to learn. But I think Tony Robbins is amazing. I think he's got amazing, amazing stuff. I never went to his events, but I'm sure they'd be amazing. Yeah. But again, I'm not into. I'm more into like the day-to-day grind. I'm not into that motivation stuff. I'm into like, okay, let's build. I don't want to go up and down like a yo-yo. I need steady growth. Like, I know what I need to do. I just, sometimes there's, no matter how much you want to run, God's going to tell you have to be patient. I'm sure you girls want to get married, find the right guys, and there's times that you have to be patient also, And that's what the Torah teaches you. There's times to run, and there's times you have to be patient.
One of my favorite quotes from you is you say, when you feel like giving up, that's when you need to turn it up. And it's great because so many times in life, especially right now in 2020, there's so much chaos. There's Corona, there's elections, there's Beirut. Like, it's like never ending. And sometimes you just feel like imploding and you just want to give up. So what does that quote really mean to you? And what can you do when you're in a dark place where you're just like, I can't do this anymore?
Very good. Great question. So Rebbe Nachman said that the purpose of the purpose of obstacles is to increase desire. So the obstacle is the way. You understand? There's a concept in Kabbalah called the bread of shame. What is the bread of shame? That anything you receive in life without earning it, it's going to lead you to shame. So basically, today, if just like a person that gets addicted to drugs, You know, if I want to get to a high spiritual state, I got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I got to learn. I got to be in a good state. I think I can take heroin and he's done in 2 minutes. But obviously he's going to come down and he didn't earn that light. You know, in order for me to get light, I have to go earn it. So God created us to go through tremendous obstacles, because through those obstacles, we build the vessels in order to receive the light. So when things are very tough for you, there's a lot of obstacles, you should know that there's a big light on the other side of that obstacle. So what you need to do, instead of giving up, you need to turn it up, turn on desire. And desire is something that it's the greatest thing in the world. It's the light of Keter. It's something we all have. We come from infinity. We come from greatness because we're made for greatness. And that's something that's really in you. What stops you from giving up is our mindsets, it's our emotions, is the meaning we give to something. So when you feel like giving up, you have to turn it up. That's a time when when you go on that terrible date, I'm sure you guys have been on some, and you're like desperate, how am I going to get married? I don't know when all LA guys are like that. The last thing you want to do is wake up to pray, because you're mentally, physically exhausted, right? That's exactly when you need to pray. When you're in that constriction, when you're like in that complete chaos and you're lost, that's where you need to pray. Because what happens is, if you stay in that state for a while, it could turn into months, it could turn into years, it could turn into personalities. And that's what we're afraid about. We're afraid about people's, all of a sudden something happens in their life and that becomes their personality. They got stuck there. So that's why you have to be careful to avoid any kind of despair. You have to push yourself.
Yeah, you talk about this victim versus survivor mode, I feel, a lot.
Co-creator.
And co-creator. It's interesting because I did recently hear a talk from Dr. Edith Eger, and she had mentioned that there's this victim mentality, and then she has like a survivor mentality, of course. But if you sit in victim mode, yes, it's a blockage, it's constricting, it's just not a good place. But when you're in a survivor place, you're flexible, you're working with the situation, you're bettering yourself, you're growing, you're seeing your strength. So I kind of see that in everything that you say as well. And like this whole idea, being a survivor is connecting to your creator at the end of the day.
Yeah, the whole point that you're here in this world is to reveal your faith. Otherwise, God could give you a world full of light all day long. And what would you be here for? You understand? What is your purpose here? So the ultimate reward you give your creator is when you choose light over darkness. When you choose to wake up after that horrendous date, the cheapskate that doesn't want to even, and you're completely, you have no energy to even think about dating, and you're completely knocked out, that's the time when you have to cry out to your creator and say, help. That's not the time to say, you see, I don't know why this is happening to me. This is always like that. Maybe my mother should have raised me better. My parents had more money. Blah, 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 blah. That's what we normally do. When we don't like the situation, what did Adam do? He blamed his wife, and then he hid. So if we know, what did Adam do? Adam's only had to do one thing. He had to say, I apologize for the mistake he made. But what did he do? Well, this is what we all do when we're not in the right mindset. We blame somebody else, and then we hide. And then we fall and we stay there. We stay in that place. And that place is where, God forbid, you have God's concealment. So not only are you not going to get out of it, but you're going to constantly stay there. So that's why I urge people, stop questioning your creator, start questioning your thinking. Let's find a way to get you out of that state, because that state is very dangerous. That state could turn into an addiction. That state could turn into losing your faith. So I try to get people, them up.
We should stop questioning the darkness, as you're saying. And Gabby Bernstein, the best-selling author, has said this as well, like, make your problem your purpose, which you in fact did, I believe.
Right. But you see, Gabby Bernstein, I heard one time, I don't know how I got to her video, but she's saying some very Kabbalistic ideas. And she said one time that, she wakes up at 3 o'clock also in the morning, very early. And she says the heavenly curtain opens up. So what happens is she's connecting to a very strong energy at that time. And she's, one time she mentioned in one of her classes, I don't know how I got to her thing. Somebody showed me a video how she was trying to get pregnant, and she was trying to get pregnant on her terms. And what happened? It didn't happen. So what did she do? Surrender, surrender, surrender. And this is a very simple concept in us. And the more she surrendered, the more it was successful to her. So there's times that we also have to surrender and recognize there's a bigger picture going on, instead of resist, which is the cause of all the pain.
I have a bonus question about light, because we were just talking to another friend of ours who did a podcast with us, who's is a Jewish activist, and he was saying how we are like we're the chosen people because we chose the Torah, and part of our journey in life is to be the light. Correct. So do you believe that that's our purpose? And also, with all the unrest that's happening in the world, what's our role as Jewish people to like be the light? How do we do that?
We have to. What Rabbi Rush says, we have to bring the light amongst the nations. But unfortunately, sometimes you don't see that case. You don't see that often, unfortunately, because people are not in touch with themselves. You understand? How could you light somebody else up if you can't even light yourself? How can you give to somebody else if you can't even give yourself? Today, we're suffering from a very confused dot. The mindset of many people today, I've never seen such confusion in this world. And yeah, when you are your best sake, for example, what are you guys doing now? You guys are giving. Somebody's going to hear your podcast. You're giving. You're givers now. You're not takers anymore. You became givers. You're in your soul state because you give. And what do you think God's going to do? All of a sudden, because you have a platform that you're giving to people, He's going to open up your mind and give you new ideas to talk about. He's going to give you new things, new people to meet, because you become now, you're the channel, and you're getting a lot of reflected light from people. You get me? So that's
Ezrat Hashem. I get you.
It's amazing that you guys are doing this, because you're going to become a lot smarter this way, because you have now a platform in order to give. So when you have a platform in order to give, God uses you to help people. That's what this. I'm trying to tell you. There's no way in the world I would come up with a class every single day if it wasn't for God revealing concepts to me that people need to learn years to, and I get them revealed to me.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this. It's funny because I come from a background of television production and on-camera hosting. So I've worked a lot in the entertainment industry. And a lot of times people ask me, like, what do you like doing more, like that or your podcast? And I said, well, it's different. Entertainment's like a fleeting temptation, a fleeting, right, moment of joy and simcha. But this is like sustainable, and it's fulfilling my soul. So it's 100%. A totally different place, experience. Not even comparable. Yeah.
Right. And you have an excitement, and you guys have very good energy together. You guys are a good team. It's a good mind. It's a good team.
Thank you, Gedale. That means so much.
No, you told me I had good energy, and I was like, what? I love it.
I told her the mirror, and she has very good energy.
I appreciate that.
It's more important that you have energy and you make mistakes than no energy and no drive. That to me is like, oh, it's the worst. Have a lot of energy and make mistakes. It's fine to fail, but when you have no energy and no ambition, no drive, that to me is very tough.
And that's what I'm really hearing from you too, is that we're all vessels of God, and it's our job as individuals to get in touch with that and to really channel our purpose.
No
that comes from Hashem, and like that's all of our energy that we can put into the world, and that's how we can make the world a better place.
Correct. You elevate things. For example, you're on TV, you did TV. So what did you do? You elevated, you took the gifts you had, and now you're elevating it spiritually. That's what we're supposed to do. Elevate things to the right way.
Amen.
All right.
Well, we hope we've elevated everybody else's energy that's listening in or watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and also leave comments below, and connect with Gedale and watch his lectures, because they are absolutely phenomenal and eye-opening.
Thank you, guys.
Gedale, where can people connect with you?
They can, I'm on YouTube under my name, Gedale Fenster, Gedale, last name is Fenster, or we have like a WhatsApp group. On Facebook also, they can message my assistant. They can put it on the WhatsApp group also.
How can they message your assistant?
On Facebook.
Through Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah, through my name, Gedale Fenster.
Wait, so your assistant answers your messages, not you?
Most of the times, yeah.
Gedale. Wait, so who added me on Facebook? Was it you or your assistant?
Probably my assistant.
That's so funny.
On WhatsApp, I answer all the WhatsApps.
Got it.
Transfer blood cells.
Okay.
Transfer blood cells.
Noted. Well, if you guys want to connect, you know where to find him.
Perfect, perfect. Hashem should bless you guys, and you should continue. And it's also good for you guys also, because there's a lot of Jewish people that don't have the right mindset. And, you know, I think it's very important to relate to them on their level. So you guys are very also non-threatening, and, you know, they don't think like you're trying to preach to them. You know, it's very important. You have to build rapport with people.
Yeah.
All right, guys? Good luck. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you for joining us on Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. We'll see you guys next time from your two favorite Jewish girls.
Gedale.